OK， 大家早上好，晚上好。Depends on which location you're in. 我是今天的主持人Jeffrey. 那好，我们今天的这一期的主题是用于传情的古典乐emotional expressions in classical music. 所以我们的古典乐呢，我先用一个中文来大概做一个介绍哈。我们都知道这个音乐是很容易传递我们的情感的，对吧？那但是我们怎么样去把这样子一个可能用情感，可能用很怎么说用一个稍微比较理性的一个语言去把它传输出来，那可能需要我们的传理同学呢，就是今天是来讲这样一个话题怎么用理性的语言，怎么样理性的方法，然后让我们甚至是量化，让我们更容易的把这样子的一个我们内心的情感，然后通过音乐能够传递给大家。那我们的传理是来自于马来西亚他是在马来西亚的 UCSI 大学是音乐的本科学位，然后在 Texas State University 是拿到的是硕士学位，然后他现在是Texas Tech University 的在读博士生，他的专业是Music Art in Piano Performance， 然后他也获得了许多的奖项，也在很多的比赛中什么都获奖，也有很多的演出的经历。那我们现在欢迎我们今天主讲人Chuan-Li。Please welcome Chuan-Li.
Hello all, happy Chinese New Year and Valentine's Day. So thank you so much for joining webinar. So I want to make this webinar rather interactive, so therefore I will be posing a lot of questions. So if you have any thoughts or feedback, please feel free to chime in and have a discussion. Okay, so before I talk about this topic, I'm going to play a couple of instrumental and orchestral music from different periods, and I would like you all to rank the music by two aspects. Okay, so first is the emotional content. Okay, that means whichever hits you and moves you the most emotionally get number one. Okay, and then second, the chronological period of the music. So this involves some guessing. Okay, so you have to listen to the sound and the richness in harmony or texture. Okay, so the one closest to modern day will get number one. Okay, all right. So let's get started. So this is the first piece I'm going to play. Okay, can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so here comes the second example. here's the third one. Okay, and here's the last one. Okay, that's all. So, in case you wonder, all the music I've chosen for the poll possess similar quality in terms of emotional expressivity. That's so it will make the comparison much easier. Of course, there's no right or wrong, whatever choice you make, but yeah, because emotions are very subjective and personal. So anyone, yeah, which example strikes you the most emotionally? Which ones strikes the heart of I mean the string of your heart? Anyone? Okay, so we will discuss this now. So the reason why I brought up the chronological period is that the evolution of music from 17th century to this day changed a lot in the way how composers express their emotion. So the first recording we just heard was actually written in classical period. Oh, you only remember the last one. Have you heard of the last one before?
Yeah, the last one is from the Rachmaninoff,
Yeah, it's
like
by
Paganini Rhapsody. I'm not sure what's the last one, but yeah, it's 18th variation, right?
that is the 18 variation. Yeah. This excerpt also played a lot in some movies like Somewhere in Time. If any of you are
Yep.
familiar with this, yeah. So the first recording is actually from classical period. Then the second one was by Chopin, early romantic, and then the third one is actually from Baroque. So that the one is the oldest. And the last recording we just heard was by Rachmaninoff. Yeah, that one is closest to today. Okay, so yeah, so back in classical period, dated from 18 to early 19th century, composers were hired by patrons to compose music, partly because they had to write something to please the audience. So it almost has to be objectively beautiful. So yeah, it is expressive and sentimental, but it is also quite emotionally reserved, I would say. Okay. However, starting in the 19th century, as the movement of Romanticism rose, composers began to look inwardly and express their emotions and thoughts. Okay, so their music always tied strongly to their life experience and struggles they encounter in life. Okay, so, music is often a medium for the composer to deliver their deep emotions in romantic period. So, I'm going to show you an orchestra work composed by Brahms, okay, named German Requiem. So, this set of orchestra work also include choral and vocal part. So, Brahms wrote this piece soon after the death of his father. So he sought to express the sorrow he suffered from losing his dad during this period. So he expressed this in composition. Um, so I'm going to show you the third movement of this German Requiem. Okay. Okay. So I just wanted to show you all the idea how a composer reflect their feeling in the composition. Okay. So as mentioned in the write up of this webinar, music isn't about emotion. So there are always ways we can do to enhance the emotional expression, and we'll be looking into this aspect now. Okay, so I'm going to illustrate to you all how certain elements in different musical domain contribute to the intensification of the emotional richness. Okay, the next slide. Okay, tonality. Um, According to the New Oxford American Dictionary, tonality is the character of a piece of a music as determined by the key. Okay, in Chinese is 调性. Okay, in which it is play or the relation between the notes or scale or key. Well, the definition is rather technical, but I'm sure you all know what it means right off the bat after you see the Chinese translation. Okay, so in general, there are two types of tonality in music we listen to these days. They are major and minor key. So if you apply that to harmonies, it would be major, chord, and minor. Okay. So how does that relate to emotion? Well, each of these harmonies evoke a different kind of feeling. So let me demonstrate these two chords on the piano. So here's the major chord, okay, and this is minor chord, okay. So if I were to expand these chords into a series of notes, okay, for example, scales, major scales, or minor scales, okay, major scale would sound like this, okay, and minor scale would sound like this. Okay, so now I'm going to play two short excerpts using two different keys, and I would like you all to tell me its tonality, whether it is major or minor. Okay, so this is the first one. Okay, so is it yeah, the one is major. Okay, by the way, feel free to unmute yourself to discuss the topic if you want. So because I don't always look at my camera, I wouldn't notice if you write anything on the chat. Okay, so yeah, this is major. And what about this one? Yeah, what about this one? Minor, yes, very good. Okay, so yeah, so can someone describe the mode of these two pieces I just played, whether it is happy, sad, playful, or mysterious, whatever? So how does the first piece sound to you? The first one. Anyone? Joyful, okay. Okay, what about the second one? Yeah, so it has a kind of a negative or downness to it. Okay, so okay, here is the thing. Sometimes things can get a bit complicated, and these tonalities can portray a completely opposite mood of what we are accustomed to. Okay, let me play another two examples in major and minor key, and you will hear the difference. Okay, so this one. Okay, how does it sound to you? It is in major key, right? But does it sound happy? Not quite, right? I feel like it has the melancholic quality in it. Okay, and let me show you another version of the minor piece. So this piece, I'm sure you all heard of this before. It is written in minor key as well. Okay, so this is minor, but does it sound sad? Not at all, right?
No.
It sounds quite cheerful to me, actually. Okay, so as you can hear, the tonality does help to set a specific mode and atmosphere for a piece, but it also matters how the composer operates the melodic line. Okay, so let's look at the next slide. Okay, melody contour and interval. Okay, so the shape of a melody often detects the character of a piece. Normally, the bigger the interval is, the more expressive it sounds. Okay, so interval refers to the distance between two notes. Okay, so for example, the melody do re, okay, only progresses by one step only. You see, just one step. Okay, whereas do so, okay, it has a skip of 5 notes. Okay, so the next example I'm going to play, go through a series of changes in the melodic shape. Okay, so as you can see on the slide, this is what I'm going to play now. Okay, the melody progresses by steps throughout the first line, as highlighted in yellow. So it gives us a really calm and noble feeling. Okay, when it gets to the middle part, the melody becomes quite jumpy and has a lot of skip, hence the playful character. Okay, and then the third line, the interval is even larger, so bringing the intensity of the piece up to another level. Okay, let me turn on the heater. It is really cold here. we had a snowstorm last night. Okay, in the next example, the composer really take a really unique approach to the melody. Okay, and then the angular and spiral shape of the melody gives a kind of quirkiness and eccentric feelings to the piece. Okay, can you hear the recording, because I know the heater is quite loud. Can you hear it?
Yeah, we can hear it.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Okay, great. Okay, so next one. Okay, so here comes the question. Does it mean that melody that's moved in small step is lifeless and boring? Okay, because I mentioned that the bigger the interval is, it will add more interesting character to it. So does it mean that melody with smaller step gives a really boring feeling? Okay, not really. So it really depends on other factors. Okay, so the next excerpt you hear has a very static melodic movement. Okay, and I would like you all to judge whether it restricts the emotional expression. Okay. Okay, so what do you all think? Does it sound stagnant, or dull to you all? Not really, right? Because okay, so let me analyze the melody a little bit. So it actually moves. See, it moves by steps only. Okay, yeah, only until towards the end of the phrase, only it has a bigger step. Okay, so well, so the reason is that although the melody barely moves and only progresses one step at a time, it has a really interesting harmonies underneath the right hand melody. So yeah. Okay, yeah. So now let's take a look at this harmonic aspect. So let's look at the next slide. Okay, so harmonic complexity and richness. So this may seem a bit technical to those who are not familiar with music theory, but usually a simple harmony consists of 3 notes. For example, let's say a C major chord. Okay, so most composers in the Romantic period employs rich and extensive harmonies. That means a harmony that involves more than 3 notes at a time, that create more harmonic color and tension. So for example, major 7, minor 7. So usually it has like 4 to 5 notes. Okay, so as a result, it intensifies the expressiveness of a piece. Okay, so yeah, in classical period, most pieces normally begin with a simple chord. Okay, for example, this Mozart piece, sonata. So it begins on the C chord. It's a simple chord. Okay. Yeah, but the piece I'm going to play next begins with a quite complex, extensive harmony, which sets up a really dark and sorrowful atmosphere. As you can hear the first chord, yeah, we already have the tension, harmonic tension in the very first chord. Okay, all right. The next one, so the next piece I'm going to play is by Prokofiev. So what I just showed you just now, I mean, there's no what a complex harmony can only do to the emotional expression of a piece. Sometimes quite the opposite. Having a bunch of random notes at a time can create a kind of repulsiveness and rebellious feeling also. For example, this one. Yeah. Okay, and then I'm going to present you 2 more examples from the late Romantic period that use interesting harmonies. Okay, at times you may hear some dissonance or clash harmonies in the piece. So dissonance is a kind of harmonic tension resulted from a really close interval. For example, like, okay, so these intervals are quite small, right? It's just a semitone if you are familiar with the term. So if I were to play these two notes together, it will create a kind of dissonance. Okay, so yeah. So if I were to take all these dissonance out of context and play them alone, it can sound quite ugly. Okay, so let me show you. So right now I just single out all the dissonance. Okay, so let's hear what it does to the piece. Okay, I'm going to play everything as written. have you all heard of music that has no harmonies? Well, during the medieval period, music often delivered without any accompaniment. We call it chant music, and they were all composed for religious purposes. So, can music still reflect an emotion without the support of harmonies? Of course, yes. I'll show you a piece that opens with solely melody itself. Okay, so how does that sound to you? Does it sound emotionless? No, right? The absence of harmonies actually create a sense of insecurity and emptiness. Okay, and this kind of approach works very well in depicting the depressed feeling and the idea of getting lost in life, as if you are still in the process of searching and figuring things out. Okay, note that another thing composer did to the music is the volume. Okay, yeah, as you can notice just now, I played everything quite soft. Okay, so this volume we call it dynamic. As you can hear, the soft sound intended for this passage actually establish the mysterious atmosphere very well. So let's look at the next slide. Yeah, dynamic. Okay, so as I mentioned just now, the use of dynamics is crucial. It's crucial when it comes to painting an image of a music. Okay, visually soft volume suggests a calm, tranquil, and peaceful atmosphere, but it also works very well at bringing the listener's attention. Okay, I would say that the tension created by soft volume is very effective, as it gives us the uncertain feeling that we don't know what's going to happen next. And yes, usually it comes with a surprise. Okay, so I'm going to play two examples. Okay, these two examples has a very quiet tone throughout that serves the lyrical and sentimental purpose. Okay, and the next one. so the challenge for the performers to play this kind of music is that while being soft and quiet, you still have to project the melody out. Yeah, so yeah, it's quite a challenge for the performers. Okay, so composers like Beethoven, who loves to toy with listeners' expectation of what comes after next in music. So he loves contrast and often use big dynamic range to show the dramatic effect of the storm after the calm. Okay, so let's listen to one of his middle period compositions. So up to this point, everything is still quite soft and quiet. Okay, all right. Let's look at the next slide. Okay, so yeah, this is the organization of the arch-shaped musical intensity. So generally speaking, the organization of arch-shaped musical intensity can be mapped and divided into sections that reflect the golden ratio, as the figure on the slide demonstrate. Okay, so this golden ratio displays the development and resolution of harmonic tension in most of the harmonic romantic period composition, which also correlates with the overall formal structure of the piece. So the increase of harmonic tension to a breaking point followed by an emotional outburst is one of the effective devices used in many romantic pieces, which is often placed at the peak of a piece to expand its emotional expressiveness. Composers who employ this technique for coloristic purposes includes Brahms and Scriabin. Okay, so let's look at the next slide. Okay, so I'm going to show you two examples. So the first one is Scriabin. So I would like you all, yeah, as you can see from the screen, I would like you all to pay attention to the emotional outburst at 51 seconds. Oh, sorry, I'm not showing the music from my iPad, so you cannot see the timing. But I'll let you all know when it gets there. So it is still building the tension. So we're almost getting to the peak already. Okay, here we go. Okay, can you hear a kind of like emotional relief or release? Yeah? Okay, good. So another example I'm going to show you is by Rachmaninoff. Okay, so this piece, although it contains sorry. Yeah, so similar to Scribing, the piece I'm playing now actually has a constant build up to tension along the way, and then pushing it to a climatic point, followed by an emotional outburst. So because the piece is kind of lengthy, so I'm just going to play the relevant passage. So here it is. Sorry. Okay. All right. So next slide.
Chuan-Li, can I have a question here?
Mhm.
So you shared the arch shaped this kind of expression is like one typical example of how we like build the emotion, right?
Mhm.
So
Well, this
and
kind
there
of
are also other like types of ways to build the emotion as well. Is that right?
Of course, yeah. But I'm just showing you one of the devices that most composers would use in the Romantic period.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Mhm. So let's look at the next musical domain, which is the rhythm. Okay, so besides the use of harmonies, rhythms also serves as a really important device that provide the heartbeat of specific feelings to a piece. So this effect is quite simple and direct. So composer often use fast-paced rhythm when he or she wanted to create a kind of agitating feelings or excitement. So the next example I'm going to play is by Beethoven. So I'm going to show you how Beethoven keeps the musical drives and momentum in one of the compositions written during his middle period. Okay, so the second one is also by Beethoven. Okay. Sorry, not this one. Okay, so this is quite different from the one I showed you just now. Um, So this one has a really consistent rhythm that keeps the music going. But in this piece, Beethoven used this dotted rhythm pattern, like badam 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 badam, to achieve a kind of brisk, cheerful, and upbeat feelings. Okay, like. Okay, and the next one I'm going to play has a really steady and persistent pause. Okay, because of its emphasis on the first and second beats, it creates a grandiose and heroic kind of feeling. Okay, and I'm going to share one more examples about how rhythm can facilitate the emotional expression. Okay, so I want you to guess the style of this piece after listening to it, and tell me whether it is a march, like 进行曲, a dance, or a nocturne, 夜曲. Yeah, so does it sound like a march or a dance or a nocturne? Anyone? Nocturne, not quite. So nocturne has a really lyrical melody, and usually the character was, I mean, the calmness and tranquil feeling will stay throughout the piece. Yeah, so this one is kind of upbeat and agitating, right? So it's actually a dance. So the left hand rhythm is important because as I mean the rising figure. So yeah, because it adds some thrill and nerves to the music, but at the same time it also keeps a really steady feeling of a dance. Okay, so next one. So yeah, next slide please. So composers also employ the vocal kind of writing in piano piece to imitate the singing and speaking manner. So this approach is unique because by doing that we get a different kind of emotional quality that we usually don't hear in piano works. So the next two examples that I'm going to share both mimic the speaking and singing mannerism in art songs. So this is the first one. Okay, and the second one. Okay, and let's look at the next slide. So some composers, such as Rachmaninoff, loves to associate music to painting to escalate the emotional content of the piece. Though neither did he declare it publicly nor use the musical imagery as the title, but he did mention the association with the painting in his letter to a conductor when Ramanujan was proposed to perform his piano works by an orchestra. So let's listen to the piece, and then we'll listen to the music. We'll look at some pictures. So Jeff, can you go to the next slide? Okay, so some famous examples are his etudes that was composed based on the image of sea and seagull, okay, and the Red Riding Hood. So we are going to listen to the first one, the sea and seagull. And this piece is quite long, so I'm going to just skip to the middle section where we have climax. Okay, let's look at the next painting. No, actually, it's just a picture. Yeah, okay. So this one, as you can see from the drawing, is actually a Red Riding Hood. So here's the music. Okay, so last but not least, I'm going to discuss what we would do while performing a piece to make things more emotionally engaging. So so first of all, it has to do with voicing, and like I would make sure that the melody is very clear and singing that stands out of the accompaniment and the thick texture. And then second would be the rubato I use. So rubato is the freedom of time we give to a piece. So rather than playing the music in the strict tempo, we would do a bit of push and pull in terms of timing and how we pace the rhythm. Okay, and then third will be touch and attack to the key that creates a musical color. Okay, and this is rather abstract and difficult to explain because it needs a lot of imagination. But to make things simple, it almost has to do with the dynamic and the duration I hold the key. Okay, so now I will wrap up the presentation by playing you a piece written by a movie soundtrack composer Ennio Morricone. Yeah, so here it is. Okay, that's all for my presentation. Thank you for watching and I hope you enjoy it.
Okay, thank you, Chuan-Li. Thank you for your presentation and the beautiful music. Yeah. So yeah, anyone in the audience wanna have any questions? So feel free to like unmute and ask Chuan-Li. Ingrid, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I actually yesterday I listened to a lead. I think it's like an art song. So I'm wondering because I have no idea how it was composed. So I actually want to ask actually it's firstly they have poems or they have the music for the art song. Do you have any idea on this?
Oh yeah, actually a lot of poem they are used as a base to so I mean usually a lot of composers they would compose songs based on a written poem that is quite common. So let me show you an example I recently played. So this piece is by a modern composer named Ben Moore. Yeah, I actually just got the music, so I haven't really looked at the content yet. Like you see, it has 7 poems. Yeah, so the melody is actually goes really well with the lyrics. Yeah, so it's quite common that composer wrote art songs based on poem. Yeah.
Well, I think it's quite popular for the classical composers. I think almost the famous names like Beethoven or Mozart, they all have this kind of thing. So I'm really interested in the like a code switching in, if you are familiar with the linguistic, the code switching from the verbal text to the music. So it's very interesting for me. So is that possible to give you a poem and let you to compose or not compose, to play a piece of music? Yeah. Actually, I think there was a writer who had already this one. You can it's a quite it's not a happy poem. It's from the Apollinaire for the under the Mirabeau Bridge. It was in French, but anyway, it's like who.
Written in French?
Yeah, it's a words in French, but translated to English here.
Okay. All right. Yeah, sure. Well, the poem is kind of long, so can I just
the last
paragraph?
two paragraphs.
The last two?
Yeah, last two paragraphs. I think it's more representable.
Is it the days and equally the weeks elapsed? Is it from there?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me digest the poem first. So the days equally the weeks elapsed. The past remains the past. The remains lost on the bridge. Okay. So let me make this clear. So I'm not really used to improvisation, so I'm just going to improvise this based on the pop music harmonic language. Okay, so it will go by a really simple harmonic progression. Yeah, something like that.
Thank you. I think it's great.
Okay. Let me have a question. So is there, have you ever deal with the conflict of your emotion with the emotion that you need to express in the music you want to play?
Oh yeah. So I this kind of conflict doesn't really never really happen, but sometimes I feel like I will have to do extra more in order to get the kind of feelings, like especially when I perform music written by Chopin, because it is so, I mean, the harmonies and emotion is so dense and rich, and especially when I was much younger, like 12 or 13. Yeah, as you can imagine, a boy that hasn't gone through a lot of life experience would be quite difficult to interpret that kind of music, right? So yeah, I often, I mean, when I was younger, I had that kind of experience before. Not to say it conflicts with my emotion, but I feel like I couldn't have a full grasp to the emotion. Yeah.
Okay. So basically you need to like practice yourself into that emotion.
Sometimes not only practice, but I feel like sometimes we do have to put the music aside and then maybe wait for a few years and go back to it. Yeah, because it really takes life experience to understand certain things. Yeah,
Right.
especially for composers like Beethoven, Brahms, Rachmaninoff, Schumann. Actually, yeah, their music appears to be very philosophical and deep. Yeah, so it is quite opposite to music written by Mozart, right? Because
Right.
we often heard the saying that goes, only kids can interpret Mozart well, and then
Yeah.
once we cannot play Mozart anymore. Yeah, so yeah, for pieces like for composers like Brahms, Beethoven, all these Germanic composers, we tend to need more experience in life in order to understand the content.
So sometimes probably needs a little bit imagination, because you don't have to like experience everything, right?
Right. Yeah, like for example, like playing Chopin's music, right? Because music, Chopin is a Polish composer, but I'm not a Polish, so how could I understand the kind of music, right? So it needs a lot of imagination for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
I was just gonna ask about something very neat that I learned a while back. Are you familiar with musical motives?
Motives,
So I learned about Bach's motive and Dmitri Shostakovich. Do you know any other motives that are just as good or interesting?
Okay, do you mean the Bach motif in Shostakovich's composition?
Yeah, like not the concept motive, but rather the notes that are more like a signature.
Oh, okay. To be very honest, I'm not familiar with that particular piece written by Shostakovich, so I can't much about it. Yeah, but I think there are two types of composers. One who is fascinated and obsessed with motivic transformation, like Bach, Brahms, Beethoven, Rachmaninoff, or Bela Bartok. Yeah, and another groups of composers like Mozart, Vivaldi, who else? Mendelssohn. Yeah, they all don't really care much about motivic development, but I think their composition is more melodic oriented, I would say. So they focus more on the melodic shape than have anything to do with the motivic development. Yeah. So I find that if you don't understand pieces written by Beethoven or Bach, when you first listen to it, it might bore you, because you keep hearing this kind of short motif a lot, and it keeps coming back and drives you nuts, right? But then I think the beauty of having the development, motivic development, is that it shows you how great the potential is that motif has. So, for example, like Beethoven Symphony Number 5, right? It seems like really simple motifs, right? But you see how creative he is by unfolding this motif, and he actually used this motif throughout the whole first movement. Actually, and it reoccurs in the fourth movement as well. Yeah. So I'm actually particularly interested in this kind of compositional technique, rather than just a beautiful melody.
Yep, I definitely agree. At least I can say that it's very appreciated seeing how they creatively put a signature of their own. It might be related to their name, but also related to the piece itself, and like you said, how it can evolve or how it can be creative, by changing the different keys, but it's still being the same the same four tones. That also brings me to another question, or rather commentary that I've heard recently. Well, when I say recently, I mean like in the past 10 years. But a lot of modern music has been following the same four notes. And for some reason, that's
Can you repeat that again? A lot of modern music, what?
a lot of modern music seems to follow the same four notes. And for some reason, those notes have been pretty much a staple. Do you have any speculations as to why?
You mean follow the Bach motif adopted by Shostakovich?
What was the question? Sorry.
Okay, are you asking? Are you saying that a lot of modern composers adopted the Bach motif?
Not just composers. I mean, music in general, like pop music or what have you. They follow the same four notes.
Four notes? You mean
Yes.
four notes? I don't.
Dun, 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 dun.
Sorry, what is that? Is that the melody or?
Yes, for a lot of pop songs and a lot of rock songs, the drums and bass follow that all the way through.
Oh, you mean the ground bass? Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is an interesting topic. So, well, this harmonic progression actually came from the composer name. What's his name? I can't remember. He's from early Baroque. So what's his name? Oh, Pachelbel. Sorry, Pachelbel. So it is taken from his composition Canon in D, right? Have you heard of this work before?
Not myself, actually.
Yeah. So this ground bass actually came from this Canon in D. So it goes.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you talking about this?
Yes,
ground?
yes.
Yeah. So well, yeah, a lot of pop music use the same harmonic progression. So if we were to outline the harmonic progression, you will actually get this bass note. Yeah, so it has to do with the harmonies. Yeah. So actually this harmonic progression is kind of simple, so and it's quite easy to follow through. So I guess that's why a lot of pop music nowadays they try to follow this this sample, I would say.
Mhm.
Yeah, but if you listen to composition in classical to maybe late early 20th century, nobody else would use this kind of harmonic progression because it's quite simple and it involves no modulation. To me, it's kind of boring.
Yeah, agreed.
It's so repetitive, right? You there's nothing much you can do with the melody when the same progression comes back. So all you can do is just variation, yeah, and adding more embellishment and decoration. That's it. So it limits a lot of things. It limits your imagination and creativity. Yeah, but I mean, I think the reason why pop music use this kind of chord progression is that for those who are not musically inclined, would be easy. It would be easier for them to follow the music, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that was just my curiosity, and I just want to hear your thoughts about it. Thank you.
No problem. So, any other thoughts or feedback regarding how we express our emotion in music?
Yeah, I have question on the I think the contemporary music composition. I have the feeling that they are more have the tendency to use more the rhythm or the melody not so harmonic. I listened to 谭盾女书 that orchestra yesterday, and I just can't really get the point. I don't think it's a beautiful piece, but still it's interesting. So what do you think about the current experimental tendency compared to the classical rhythms?
Okay, so actually, I was going to include this the music from different chronological period in my presentation today, but because of the time constraint, I decided not to do that. So yeah, so as you can see, the tonal harmonic language it almost get to the saturated point where things cannot be developed even more, right? So the composers from 20th century onwards, they try to do something different. So because like we already have a Mozart, why do you want to be a second Mozart, right? Yeah, so they try to do something different. So the music in 20th century, they actually they went another direction. So for music by Schoenberg, the 12-tone technique, so it is purely a compositional technique. So he created this system that used 12 tone, and he arranged the all 12 notes in kind of randomly, and there's and given no hierarchy or emphasis to any notes. Yeah, so so this kind of music is quite atonal. That means no tonality. So that means you cannot really tell where it doesn't have a key sense. Yeah. So this kind of music is very hard for us to comprehend, right? Because it doesn't have a key sense, and it's not something you can hum. There's no melody for you to hum. It's also quite athematic. There's no theme. Yeah, and then but it works because the focus is actually on the technique. So I think the composer was trying to experiment and see if we can make music works without using the traditional tonal harmonies. Yeah, and then for music by Stravinsky, I'm not sure if you heard of this movement named Expressionism. So composer who wrote this kind of music actually try to try to bring out their the inner reality of the inner reality of the physical world. So because music from the past, like written by Mozart, Chopin, everything tends to be very beautiful, right? So we often associate good music to beauty, right? But in expressionism music, I think they really value the truth and reality in music. So sometimes reality and truth can be ugly. Yeah. So if you look up this kind of music on YouTube, you will be shocked that they use a lot of ugly and dissonance and clash harmonies. Yeah. So I think they try to to bring, I think partly also because it happens after the World War II. Yeah, so so music is kind of distorted at time. Yeah, maybe we can listen to some of the expressionism music now. Let me look up some examples here. Okay, so let's listen to this. Oops. So this composition is named Period Rune. Period is blur. Actually, let me share screen so that we can watch it from my phone. Can you all see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So yeah, this let me change the screen. Okay, so this music actually also based on a poem. Yeah, and the poem is kind of dark and sick and morbid. Yeah, that's why I think Schoenberg tried to use a lot of dissonant harmonies. Yeah, to depict the kind of ugliness. Yeah. So we call this expressionism music.
Well, I think maybe it's the same time to the dark romanticism in the fine arts, but I have the impression that you should put the music into the context why the composers should write some pieces like this. In the dark romanticism, I think I read something they are try to rebel the beautiful the concept of the aesthetic in the more classical way, and because this a period when the people were facing to the modernism, some modernist transformations, like for example in Paris, they did the Osman's arrangement for the whole city, so the concept of beauty changed a lot. So but I still think if you pick it outside of the context and maybe express your preference on the music, it's hardly to say that it's a really beautiful. Sometimes it's really horrible for me. So maybe but in the contemporary compositions, because it is really likely that when we go to a concert hall, they usually put two pieces of music together. One is more classical, the other maybe just composed by the composer or even the conductor of the orchestra. So it's quite difficult to appreciate the two together for me.
Yeah, I think first of all, what is beautiful is, I mean, the concept of beautifulness is actually quite subjective, right? Because what seems to be beautiful to you may not come across the same way to me. So yeah, so I think these 20th century composers, they have quite different aesthetic view towards the beauty. So I think what come across beauty to them is the reality. Yeah. So for example, if a person has a a really bad temper, but he stays true to himself, we will view that person as a beautiful person. Yeah, I'm using this analogy to show you how the composer in the 20th century think when they compose. Yeah, so I think it has a lot to do with aesthetic and philosophy, philosophical content. Yeah.
Okay, agree. Thank you. Yeah, this is my own problem. Maybe, yeah, I'm too stubborn to the classical music, but actually, it's fine for me to find the things not beautiful in the fine arts, in the paintings or sculptures. I don't know why. Maybe the music is more abstract than the visual art per se, so the expectations should be different for many people.
Yeah, I always view music as a temporal art. Like it has to do with time. Yeah. So I also think that I was going to say so I think because we are so accustomed to what we are listening every day, because we don't usually listen to this kind of music, right? Modern music. Yeah, and the music we usually listen to, like pop music or even classical, like by Mozart, Beethoven, they all has a really strong sense of tonality and harmonies. Yeah, so it sounds logical to our ears, and then we already accustomed to that kind of expectation. So I think it has to do with our perceptional expectation as well. Like when we listen to music, we would expect some kind of logic in it, right? Like it always has to end with a for example, we always have a cadence at the end of a phrase, like so if the music doesn't end this way, it might seem awkward to us. Yeah, so I think that has to do with our expectation. Yeah, so very often when I listen to this modern music, I feel like I have to put on another ear to be able to appreciate the beauty in it. Yeah, so maybe you have to look at it from a different angle.
So how do you like I'm putting this in this way. So in order for us to like appreciate 20th century music, there may be some like composers that we can like you can introduce us like to getting into it, like Prokofiev. Do you think that's a good one for us to get into it?
Actually, Prokofiev is not very atonal yet. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, well, when I first listened to Prokofiev, I didn't think that it sounded ugly to me. I actually quite
Yeah,
like it.
I think it's very
So
it's good. It means it's not as tonic as like Chopin or Rachmaninoff, but it's
well,
kind of getting into that direction. So
some of his later music is not quite tonal.
uh-huh.
Yeah, he has a very strong chromatic tendency. It is almost difficult for you to find a tonic. Yeah, in his later work. For example, the Symphonic Dances, Opus 45 by Rachmaninoff. It has a lot of random chromatic chords. Yeah. So I would say, if you want to, if you need a gateway music to get into this modern music, I would say maybe Messiaen. Oliver Messiaen. He's a French composer.
Okay.
And who else? Even Stravinsky is not bad. Like if you listen to his ballet music, like The Rite of Spring,
Oh,
it has some chromaticism in it, but it is still easy to comprehend.
okay.
Yeah, not atonal, but he used polychords, like combination of two different chords.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I have to say, this kind of the appreciation towards modern music is kind of a acquired taste. You know, we are all not born with it. We have to like take time to listen to it and digest. Yeah, so acquired taste.
Right. It's not quite intuitive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So any other questions from the audience? Or if you want to just briefly share like your favorite classical music, you can free to speak up or type in the chat box.
Well, let me share one of okay.
Oh, okay. Shostakovich. Yeah.
So Adrian, you want to share us some Shostakovich?
Sure. At least I would like to share a little bit more about him in terms of his life story. He was quite an interesting character, mainly because he went through pretty much a lot of Russia's history and communism, Stalinism, and then the Cold War era. That affected him as a not only as a person but also as a musician, because he had big aspirations to actually write. I think he wanted to write about 40 symphonies. He ended up only writing less than 20.
Mm-hmm.
And he also tried to do opera, but it was an okay opera. But the problem was that Stalin actually went to his debut, and the guy like was not paying attention to it, and then he laughed, and he actually made the media talk about how awful it was, and because of that, he never touched opera ever again. So
Mhm.
got affected by a lot of history itself. So that's why I find him fascinating, because he was pretty much kind of like the kind of like a side effect of what happened in Russian history.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm not very familiar with Shostakovich music, but did you all know that a lot of composers they cannot live past the Ninth Symphony? So composers who wrote symphonies they usually die after having the Ninth Symphony written, like Bruckner,
Wow.
Beethoven, who else? Mahler. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a curse caused by Beethoven or something. Yeah,
Right.
so
And
it's amazing that Shostakovich can live past his Ninth Symphony.
yeah, he did. He did. Actually, his 12 is one of the most recognized ones from his portfolio.
Mhm.
So I highly recommend the 12 one, because it had a little bit of Russian pride into it, if I recall correctly. And then there's the seventh, which tried to take a jab at Stalinism, but it didn't go so well. And I think it was banned for many years until the beginning of Nikita Khrushchevsky's ruling. Yeah, I'll try to dig that information back again, because I got fascinated about him, because I bought a book about his biography by a cello cello player from Mexico. And when I read all of that, I was like, wow, that is very interesting. And I read his story first, and then listened to his music, and I could see how that evolved. So it's very fascinating. So definitely check him out. If not for the music, definitely for his biography.
Okay, yeah. I'm not quite familiar with Shostakovich. So among the Russian composer, I'm more familiar with Scriabin,
Yes,
Medner.
Stravinsky.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Stravinsky, Prokofiev. Yeah, those are the top ones.
Yeah.
Um, the guy who did the Nutcracker. I forget his name every now and then. Tchaikovsky.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
By the way, did you notice that one of the example I play during my presentation is by Shostakovich, his concerto. Did you? Oh yeah,
I kind of like I was like, sounds familiar. I don't know why. And then now that you pointed out, then think back. Yeah, it is one of the concertos.
So Adrian, speaking of Russian pride, because you brought this up, so what makes Russian music Russian? I mean, is there any particular traits or elements that comes to you as a really unique and significant traits written by Russian composer, like something you can pinpoint? Oh, this is Russian music because of that elements.
Like for me, I don't know the technical terminology as to what makes it so.
You can just describe it using your own words.
That's a good. So at least during the Stalinist era, most composers were asked to write about real. So the movement was called socialist realism. And the idea was that it had to be music that appealed to the proletarians, so people such as the factory workers or the farmers. So people, so the Commonwealth people, and it's so hard to describe it as in a musical sense. In a artistic sense, it's a little bit easier, especially with paintings, because a lot of paintings back in that era were pretty much like big fields with a bunch of workers doing things together, and like this union of people going, yes, like the way that our system is the system to go. The way of our life is the one to go, and in music. It was like very structured. It had to have a certain formula into it, like kind of like having a common motif that pretty much was unified across all music. It's kind of like almost as if they were trying to remix the national anthem of Russia, grabbing elements from that and then creating music out of it. That's I can describe it.
Yeah, and I also noticed that I'm not sure whether it has to do with the geographical location Russia, because it's so close to China. I feel like it has a lot of Oriental elements. Like it used a lot of pentatonic scales. Like if you are familiar with Rachmaninoff cello sonata. So,
yes. So the funny that you mentioned that a lot of Russian music does have what we call quintets. So a lot of string, and I really wouldn't say 100% if it's very close to any Chinese influence, because I haven't heard enough classical Chinese music to really make the judgment on that. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of string going on in Russian music.
Yeah, like the third movement of the cello sonata by Rachmaninoff. In the climax part, the melody goes like this. Yeah, you can hear the kind of Oriental elements in it, right? The pentatonic scales. Sorry. So pentatonic scale is actually made out of do, re, mi, sol, la. Yeah, so do, re, mi, sol, la. Yeah, it sounds very Oriental to me, to my ear. And also, I realized that most Russian music tend to be very serious, like super.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the political situation during that time.
Yep.
and they tend to be very long and very passionate and heroic, like the Russian anthem.
Yes.
I love the anthem
Yes.
so much.
Oh, fun fact. Shostakovich was one of the nominates to create the national anthem. Didn't go with his version, but he was one of the nominates.
Oh, okay. Because I looked up the background of the anthem before, and I thought someone else wrote the anthem. So it was written by a group of composers.
It was kind of like a competition, so to speak. It was very common back then, in like the 19th century, early 20th century, that a lot of the national anthems, not only in Russia but in a lot of Latin American countries, that it'll be kind of like a competition, and a big music committee would then choose which piece would be good. Not only the piece but also the song.
I see. Yeah. I had no idea that it was a competition and they selected the best.
Yes, yeah.
It's interesting.
And Shostakovich was one of the like finalists, so to speak.
Ah, okay. So are we able to find his work that
I can link it up on the group later, if I can find everything. He also has some jazz that I used to listen to a lot. Nowadays, I listen to other composers, of course. Actually, one of my most favorite composers at this time is Joe Hisaichi.
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
Joe Hisaichi. He does music for Studio Ghibli. So a lot of the animated Japanese films. He does music for that. A lot of my friends might be familiar with one of his pieces. If you look up Joe Hisaichi Summer, if you listen to it, you might be familiar with it because it's one of his most memorable pieces.
Can you tell the name of the composer?
I'll type it in.
You type it in, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that one. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Summer. Okay, I think there is a question checkbox from Jiang.
Yeah, I saw that just now, but I forgot to answer. I'd like to know what music for old people when you're old. Okay, well, I don't think there's music you should specifically listen to when you get old. Like, you know what? That was funny. It was funny because when I was like around like 18 years old, I actually pick up the violin. So
sorry. I think the question is about this "When You Are Old" is a title of the poem, right? She's posting below it. Like, how do you interpret this poem using music?
Yeah, misunderstood. Sorry. So sorry. Is it the poem that Ming just shared?
Yes.
Okay.
From Jiang. Did you see that?
Well, I'm not. Well, so this is a poem. So this is a poem, right? When you are old.
Yeah. Just how many loved your moments of glad grace? Do you see that?
Oh, okay. Oh, are you asking me to improvise based on this poem?
I guess so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But who is the poet of this poem?
Yes, poem. Yeah.
Yeah, who is the poet? I mean,
Yes.
life. Was he from? What's the nationality of this poet?
Like, who wrote this? Who wrote this poem? Okay.
You
are old. When you are old.
WB.
Yeah, Irish.
Reads.
啊，
当你老了 I can't think about this. 当你老了
How many love you have?
Yeah.
Okay, let me try. Okay, so this is, I think this poem tries to depict the feeling of an old man, right? The feeling he has during his later life. So so it has to be somewhat sad maybe and reflective. I hope it makes sense to you.
Oh yeah, thank you. Okay, I think it's almost time, so probably one last question from you guys.
Happy holiday to you all.
Yeah, happy holidays. Okay, if you guys do not have any questions, then we can wrap it up. Thank you so much, Chuan-Li, for this thoughtful, and informative presentation, and also your beautiful performance. Thank you so much.
Inviting me to this sharing session. Yeah. It's actually quite